Hi, my name is Renee Beach. I'm a graduate student at Morningside University, and I'm a teacher at Hempstead High School. Today, I will be presenting on the effects of a co-taught and single-taught classroom of high school students in Algebra 1. 13%, or 6.5 million students in the nation, have an individualized education program. This has led to an increase of special education services in the general education environment, such as in a co-taught setting. IEP students in the general education environment have increased from 33% in 1990 to 91 to 62% in 2013-2014. I have chosen this topic because as a special education teacher, I am frequently co-teaching in the general education environment. I wanted to know if my work was impacting the students in a positive way compared to if I wasn't providing any additional services in the general education classroom. Swiger and Landrum provided me with a study that studied over 5,000 classrooms across 50 different schools. Each observation lasted approximately 15 minutes in length and focused on observing one student's interaction with all the teacher or teachers in the classroom. They looked at 7 different categories to compare. These categories included positive feedback, negative feedback, opportunities to respond, small group instruction, one-to-one instruction, active student engagement, and student disruptions. At the elementary level, significant differences were found in 6 of the 7 categories. 5 of those 6 categories that showed significant differences was supporting a co-taught setting. In the middle and high school settings, 2 of the 7 areas were considered significantly different. One of those 2 setting categories supported a co-taught setting. Carpenter, Crawford, and Walden did a study to compare the co-taught versus single-taught classroom at a graduate level introduction course. In their study, they collected pre-test, post-test, achievement data, and their student demographics. They compared 3 different categories. Of those 3 categories, there was only a significant difference found in one of them, of which it did support the co-taught setting. The theoretical framework for this presentation focused on multiple intelligences. Multiple intelligences promote students to learn and express their knowledge in different ways. This is supported in a co-taught setting by promoting station teaching, parallel teaching, smaller groups, and different methods of assessment, such as presentations or their own creative projects. The purpose of this study was to determine if a co-taught setting promoted students to be more successful than if they were in a single-taught setting. This is for both the general education students and the special education students. The working hypothesis is that students in a co-taught setting have a higher average test score than in a high school Algebra 1 class compared to students in a single-taught high school Algebra 1 class. The independent variables were the type of class setting, so either their co-taught or their single-taught class setting. The dependent variable is the student's test scores in the high school Algebra 1 classroom. The results can be used to help determine if the co-taught setting is effective for both general education students and special education students. These results will impact my work as a special education co-teacher and how I will support special education students in the general education environment. The participants in this study included 9th through 12th grade students enrolled in an Algebra 1 class, either co-taught or single-taught. Both settings had a mix of general education and special education students. There were 92 total students across 4 different classes. These 92 students ranged in demographics and their educational background. There was one teacher for both the single-taught classroom settings. There were 2 different general education teachers for the co-taught classroom setting, but they had the same special education teacher for both co-taught classrooms. The materials that were used were 4 quizzes and 4 tests that all students were given within the 12-week study period. The quizzes averaged 30 problems. The tests averaged 55 problems. Problems ranged from short answer to fill in the blank to multiple choice questions. All of the assessments were developed and altered by the district's Algebra Collaboration Group. The assessments were given with pencil, paper, and a calculator. Instruction was based on Algebra 1 course book materials and additional materials that were published by Big Ideas Learning. The assessments were over 4 different units. Those units include solving linear equations, solving linear inequalities, graphing linear functions, and writing linear functions. All forms of assessment were the same, but the teaching style and day-to-day instruction varied upon the classroom and the teachers. Progress was monitored every week and a half with either a quiz or test assessment data. Data was analyzed at the conclusion of the 12-week period. Results shown that there was not a significant difference in scores from the co-taught setting to the single-taught setting. Data did not show a significant difference in pretest and interim scores for participants in the single-taught setting. However, it did show a significant difference in pretest and interim scores for participants in the co-taught setting, which means that students in the co-taught setting did show a significant difference from the beginning of their scores to the ending of the testing period. There were 3 basic limitations. The first is that there were outliers. Some students did not put in their full effort into their assessments, causing the data to be skewed. This did occur in both the co-taught and single-taught setting. The next limitation is that there were different instructors. There were 4 different instructors working with the participants, and this does not ensure consistent delivery of instruction and teaching methods. The third limitation is that there seem to be more IEP students in the co-taught setting. It is documented in students' IEPs that they receive instruction in a co-taught setting, limiting them to be in a specific classroom rather than distributed evenly between co-taught and single-taught classrooms. These students often suffer from discrepancies in their math ability. thus tend to provide lower assessment scores in comparison to their general education peers. A few recommendations would be to eliminate the outliers from the data. So if there is a consistent participant that shows a lack of effort into their assessments, then eliminate their data from the results. The next would be to have the same general education teacher working with all students being studied, and have one special education teacher working with those classes that are co-taught. This would ensure consistency and delivery of material. The third recommendation is to provide additional comparisons. This could include comparing IEP students in the co-taught setting to IEP students in the single-taught setting. You could also do this by comparing the general education students in both settings. Implications could include that being in a co-taught setting did not harm the learning of any students, both gen ed or special ed. So we cannot fully conclude that it is beneficial for all students, but we can conclude that it did not harm those students. By infusing the co-teaching model into younger areas, it could be used as a preventative measure for both general education students and special education students. For general education students, this could be used as a measure before they potentially fall behind and become special education students. It could also help those special education students that are already behind to catch up with their general education counterparts. That is the conclusion of my presentation. Please see any of my additional references. Thank you.